Hello, everyone. You're welcome to this very wonderful session where we have the opportunity to unpack the recently released federal budget for 2024. The budget was released on the 16th of April, 2024, and is meant to cater to all generations. In fact, the name is called Fairness to All Generations. I have with me a wonderful team of people who are seasoned and very experienced in their industries. I'll start with Nene Akiton. Nene Akiton has an extensive experience with real estate, but she's also worked in the banking sector. And more recently, she's made it her priority to focus on community development in addition to what she does as a real estate. I was going to say magnate. I think that's probably appropriate. She's she's on the board of several organizations. She's on the board of Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce. She's also on the board of, I forget the one for realtors. That's the second one. And then thirdly, she was one of the founders of what is now called Nigerian Community of Halton, where they support different initiatives, particularly with children. And they're doing an excellent job of that. I have Lisa Kemba. Lisa Kemba is a business strategist I've known for just over a year. She's a wonderful, fantastic collaborator. She jointly hosts a networking event or group with a gentleman called Ted Creighton, who's a master business coach. But Lisa has also done a lot of things. She's actually a serial entrepreneur. I think that's how I like to describe her. She's also had the privilege to be a coach or to help develop the recently launched program at Sheridan's Edge, which is called RISE. And RISE is a program for founders of social enterprises. I'm privileged to be on the founding cohort of that program, and it's thanks to the effort of likes of Lisa for making that happen. Last but no means the least is a gentleman that I have a lot of respect for. He covers, his primary domain is technology, but he actually covers a lot more than technology. Michael Okole is easily the tallest of all of us by every stretch. So he has a background in basketball. He's coached basketball, he's played basketball for fun and probably professionally. And he's also now working in the city of Brampton, where he supports the mayor with different initiatives. In addition to that, he leads his own private company, an organization which he grew, I don't remember the percentage, but within the space of 5 months, and very fantastic example of what is possible when you make up your mind to be a solution rather than part of the problem. So it's these wonderful people that will be helping us to unpack the budget with respect to the different industries: real estate, technology, business and strategy and consulting, and of course, entrepreneurship, which is our forte at ANA Global. Permit me to tell you a little bit about ANA Global. We're a social enterprise that is committed to facilitating professionalism and economic viability among Black-owned and operated businesses. We started in the year 2023 with just about 8 people, but we're now well over 300 people. We're actually one of the fastest growing chambers of commerce for Black community entrepreneurs in Canada. And we have footprint of people all across Canada and also in the US. So we're on a roll and we're very excited about the things we're doing. We have the Chamber of Commerce. We're also setting up an entrepreneurship development academy, which has been kind of slow in starting because we're trying to get the funds. Being a first-year social enterprise, we've had issues. We have big dreams, but we also need to face the reality that we need to take things as they come. So we're pushing that along. And then one other third thing we do well is youth empowerment. So in February, we hosted a campus symposium in Hamilton in conjunction with 3 institutions: McMaster University, Mohawk College, and Redeemers University. And that was fantastic, well received. We also had the privilege of giving an award, certification of recognition, actually, to the Honorable Economic Minister for Southern Ontario by the name of Philomena Tarsi. And she was very happy to receive that. So we're making little inroads. Just over the weekend, we had a business symposium in the wonderful city of Oakville, where the mayor of Oakville, Mr. Rob Burton himself, was present. along with several wonderful panelists, including Lisa, who is here, and some others. Welcome you to watch, go to our YouTube channel, ANA Global, where you can actually watch some of the videos that have been released. We've released the video of the keynote address made by Dr. Olutoyin Oyelade, where she shared her experience in coming to Canada and how she's been able to thrive in setting up CASA Foundation and IMCAV Capital based on her experience as an investment banker. It's a beautiful, inspiring story because she came with a recorded script, but we asked her to speak from her heart, and that's exactly what she did. And no wonder people are, giving very positive feedback about what they've learned. Back to the subject of the day, and I will, at this point, stop sharing. All right. Okay, so I see that more people have joined, and you're all welcome to this program. Thanks all for joining, and I know many more people will join. I see folks like Tola Kende, who was actually also a panelist just over the weekend. Tola, I'm happy you're here because as I'll be reading out the key excerpts I've read from the budget, it turns out that anybody who knows or has any idea or interest in AI is actually in good times because the government is actually making an investment in the development of AI. So that should make folks like you happy. I see Palm. Yeah, good stuff. I see Palm Design meets, I don't know what name. Are you able to tell us who you are? Palm Design?
Hi, that's a Design Meets Desire is the name of my company. My name is Pam. So I was just invited. Pardon?
No, wait, that sounds good. Is this your picture though? Are we looking at you?
No, that you're looking at one of my art. I'm an artist.
Love it.
So
sorry.
I was invited to just to listen in.
Okay. You're welcome. I'm sure you will have a good time.
Thank you.
So we're excited to have you with us. So let me read some of the excerpts of the budget before I hand over to our seasoned panelists. So like I said, the theme is called Fairness Every Generation, and some of the key areas. So the way the federal government likes us to think about it is that there's provision for enabling building of more homes at a cheaper cost and faster. So I'm looking at Nene now because we would like to understand what the implication of that is. There's another element that talks about growing the economy so that it empowers every generation. Specifically, the highlights for the real estate says that there's an expectation to unlock 3.87 million net new homes by the year 2031, which will ensure everyone can find an affordable place to call home. And then they're also making it easier for people to rent while saving for their first home. So that's a welcome development. About 250,000 new homes have been unlocked in public lands. There's also the strengthening of the Canadian mortgage charter, as well as some other things. So that's in terms of real estate. There's also some stuff there for what we call the younger generation, which is millennials and Gen Zs. So the idea is to make education more affordable, housing more affordable, and everyday cost of living. So that's something that is been woven into the new budget. 90,000 new job opportunities for the youth is fantastic. And I know that there's going to be an opportunity to unpack that, but maybe not necessarily today. Economic growth and productivity is yet another area. So the budget is making investments in innovation, growth, and increased productivity across Canada. And like I had hinted, there's a plan to include job measures that will accelerate growth in Canada's AI sector and boost productivity by helping researchers and businesses develop and adopt AI. So AI seems to be the buzzword now. There's an investment in AI's ecosystem. There's also 1.8 billion research in core research grant funding that's available. Actually, for anybody who's so inclined, the Department of the the department I was talking about, economic development for Southern Ontario under the able leadership of Philomena Tassi has made some grant opportunities available that were open end of April. So if anybody needs information about that, I'm more than happy to support you because that information is available now. And as you know, Ontario's theme, or I don't know if it's theme, is yours to discover. So the fact that you don't know doesn't mean things are not happening big time. And this is not small money. A lot of money is being available for those who are willing, able, and ready. All right, so let's start with Nene because we've talked about the housing. Can you help us help us interpret what you've read and what we should take into consideration and what, in your view, are the opportunities?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with on the same panel as Lisa and Michael. And hello, Tola and Pam. I love your design. I love your art. It's actually very lovely and inspiring, like uplifting. So, like you said, Emmanuel, and thanks for inviting me here. My name is Nene Akinton, and this budget, as you said, is titled Fairness for Every Generation. Well, all I would say about that is the jury is out there on, whether it's really fairness for every generation, but I applaud the government for even trying to, one, introduce new things, and two, expand on other things that have been other ongoing actions as it relates to real estate. So the government's focus is really on construction. One of the main focuses is how can they construct more homes such that the lack of supply would be mitigated, because Canada is an immigrant country. We all know that. And so every year we're having 400 to 500,000 new immigrants, although they've said they're going to reduce that around students and people coming on a work permit. But having said that, we're still an immigrant nation. And so there is a push to manage the increase in demand with the actual supply of homes. And that's one of the things they're doing. The government has said they're going to do, which is why they are focusing on constructing new homes, amongst other things. Affordable homes, not just new homes, affordable homes. One of the things they want to do is to look into is modular homes. And interestingly, I actually have a client who builds modular homes in Nunavut, and their company was actually highlighted in the budget. So I was quite excited to hear that. But back to the real impact. The government is trying to do different things. One is protect renters' rights, meaning making it a more seamless process for renters to be able to access homes. And this is a passionate piece for me because being a Black agent, I have seen scenarios where investors, landlords don't want to rent to people of color. There's the whole unconscious bias in there and all kinds of things, systemic racism and all kinds of things. So I was happy to see that the government is trying to protect renters' rights, increasing price transparency, making leases simpler, and this whole issue of if you're a new immigrant, it's going to be difficult for you to rent because you don't have credit, you don't have established credit, you don't have a job, you don't have a letter of employment and such things. So I was happy to see that they're trying to protect renters' rights by making it more transparent. Another thing the government is trying to do around renting is making the rent you pay count towards you buying a house. And let me explain this. It doesn't mean your rent is going to go towards your down payment. What it means is your rent is going to show up on your credit history. So previously, your rental history didn't really show up on the credit history as we know it. Now, they had other organizations that had renters credits. Different organizations created that for landlords. But now the more mainstream TransUnion and the other credit Equifax would now be able to, although it hasn't been implemented yet, but the goal is that the rent would show up on your history. So if you're a bad tenant, it's going to impact your ability to buy a home. And it will also help landlords be able to look through and say, okay, I can take you as a tenant or I won't take you. Another thing they're trying to do is there's the to make it easier to buy a first home, there's a home buyers plan. They've increased the limit. You can now use your RRSP savings for a first home. I mean, that has been there for some time. So I think they just want to expand that. You can now save up to $40,000 per person in your tax-free first home savings account. You can now have, first home buyers can have a 30-year insured mortgage amortization, so which reduces your monthly mortgage, and things like that. Another thing which that's the last thing I will talk about, but another thing the government is trying to do, they are trying to convert underused federal offices into homes. They are taxing vacant lands to incentivize construction. They are trying to help partner with provinces and regions and municipalities to build more homes by making the red tape a little easier. So all of this is really trying to increase supply. One controversial thing the government has done is to extend the ban on foreign buyers. As at the last count, when they introduced this ban, I think it was supposed to expire in 2025, but now they've extended it to 2027. As at the last count when this was introduced, foreign buyers form only 7% of the people who buy property in Canada. That was the statistic there. I don't know what it is as at today. So even for me, if you look at what happened between 2021 or 2022, thereabouts, and even after the first ban, it didn't really cool the market. So I don't really know. I'm not quite sure where they're going with that one because I haven't seen the impact. There's this new, well, it's not new. The government is trying to enhance the Canadian mortgage charter. I'm not a mortgage broker, but I'll just speak a little bit about this. What they're really trying to do is to allow buyers, originally, allow buyers temporary extensions on their amortization for their mortgages, giving homeowners at risk the ability to make lump sum payments. You know, now, if you want to make a lump sum payment, it's tied to the kind of product you have. So the government is trying to say, okay, I'm going to keep a hawk's eye on the lenders to make sure, the lending institutions, to make sure they are not making it difficult for people to pay down their mortgages. So there are about 6 things that have been in existence before the new one. The only 2 things that are new, or 3 things, is rent payment history, 30-year mortgage amortization, and more expectation for lenders. So the mortgage charter has been there. It's been there for some time, since 2023. The one thing I want to talk about, government is doing great things, trying to increase supply, helping first-time home buyers. But they introduced this 67% capital gains tax change, meaning if you are an investor and you sell your property, the government is going to tax you on 60% of the profit you made. It doesn't mean they're taking 60% of your profit. It means they will tax you according to your tax bracket on 67%. Previously, it was 50%. So what this is going to do is it's going to disincentivize people from investing, from selling their investments. And when somebody puts a house on sale, and I'm rounding up now, you are providing jobs for stagers. You're providing jobs for inspectors. You're providing jobs for appraisers. You're providing jobs for realtors. You're providing jobs for handymen. So if the number of people who are investing or selling their investment property reduces, it's taking away jobs from Canadians, from everyday Canadians. So I'm not quite sure what the goal was behind this, because it's taking away work from a lot of people. I had a client who wanted to put their home up for sale in Toronto. It was going to be about $1 million. The compensation for both agents is 5% of $1 million, split between the agents. Lawyers would also be making money as well. Mortgage brokers as well, because when you sell, you may want to buy. So I, as a realtor, lost about 20 to 25,000 just because of this new rule, and I'm just one person. So it's taking work away from a lot of people. So that is one thing I want to highlight. It doesn't mean people shouldn't invest. but people are going to be a little skittish about investing because at the end of the day, they're going to be taxed a lot of money. So in summary, government is trying their best to do some of these things. They look good on paper, but I'm just waiting to see what it actually looks like in terms of implementation. So thank you.
Wow, this is fantastic. Apart from the fact that you summarized 3 times, you did an excellent job. And showed your passion in the industry, and it's very contagious. Thank you so much. It was very enlightening for us. I would like to go on to Michael, because I know Michael wants to talk very quickly about technology, impact on technology, given your breath. So Michael, over to you.
Hi,
you're mute right now.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you once again for having me. But I also want to appreciate you for the time as well. I just have about 20 minutes. Then I'm going to get off if you don't mind. So I'm going to look at the 2024 budget from three perspectives, and I will just touch on 2 areas as it relates to what I do. From the perspective of the entrepreneur, a business owner, there's a capital gain, which obviously is going to impact, especially on small and medium-sized businesses. And of course, there is the I would say a bit of some consideration, not as huge, because if you check the numbers, you would see that they had considered our community, the Black community. So I represent, as you know, I advocate for diversity and inclusiveness of our people. And when I look at numbers like that or reports like that, I always look at how much consideration has been given to the community. And I see that while we're all excited about things like the impact of race and cultural assessments, which they've introduced, some people say it's good, I say it's fair. There's also the introduction of the renewal and expansion of the local food infrastructure for the Black community, and of course, the continued support for mental health initiatives. So if you look at those portion of the budget that has been specific for the Black community, and also, of course, technology, as you mentioned earlier, there's an introduction of the artificial intelligence, which is also very good, especially as we evolve and advance into a more digital world. So I'm going to touch only on these 2 areas, the last 2. I will leave that of the business capital gain component because of time. Now, we all are excited. We welcome the development, of having a very strong budget that's, I in my honest view, put into perspective every sector. But you look at the numbers that has been allotted for the community. For me, the one question I ask every day is, how did they come about this number? How, for the Black mental health, I think it's about, the budget there is $4 million for 2 years. $4 million for 2 years. Nana is in real estate. Nana, if I sample your opinion now, I'll ask one question. What is the most challenging thing from a real estate perspective for any Black family or the Black community? It's simple. You go on the street in Ontario or the GTA, you will find maybe 1 out of 10 people, right, that own a home, right? Yes. That in itself affects the psyche. It in itself affects the mental health of not an individual, not as a family, even as a community, with all the energy. So the numbers are kind of random. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do, Emmanuel, in this is to continue this conversation, because at some point, questions need to be asked. How did you come about investing or proposing $4 million for Black mental health initiative? Where are the data that was used to come up with those numbers. So for me, the budget has a lot of questions rather than making recommendation or opinion. And I don't think we should be excited when we see this kind of numbers. Now, if you look at what has been invested into artificial intelligence, you would see over 20% of what has been invested in the Black Mental Health Initiative. So it's imbalance. I will leave it there. Now, if you look at the food infrastructure funds, right? It's there. I think we have about 62 million or thereabout for 2 years. 62 million, not billion. What we have for AI there is about it's in the billion range, 62. So put together, what we are getting as a community, as a Black community that has impacted in the economy of this country, what we are getting is way less than what we should be getting as a community. And I think that's where the questions should start from. And as part of an advocacy group in the GTA, I want to encourage us, man, on this program. This should not be the last of it. We should continue to have this conversation. There should be questions around how these numbers were, how they arrive at these numbers. There should be questions around how to implement this budget with these numbers. So you have in the impact on race and cultural assessment, $2 million. $2 million for one family to buy a home in the GTA is almost impossible at this point. So it's a lot of questions. I want to leave it there. Now, the interesting part, recall I'd mentioned, I'm just going to touch on the impact of that budget as it concerns us as a Black community, and of course, technology as well. So we see a figure there that says artificial intelligence, everyone is excited. Well, I would say my own view, it's a welcome development, given I own and operate a software development company in Mississauga, and of course, an astute, passionate person for technology. So I look at that and I saw that was a good introduction, given that there's a lot of fuss around what is AI. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of concerns, health concerns. There's a huge, discussions around artificial intelligence, and I think that is why it is important that they introduce these components of the budget. But then again, how do they intend to implement this budget that has been allotted for artificial intelligence? Are we looking at innovating or introducing some new technology that would help the seniors, the adults to understand how this technology works? Are we looking at training? Are we looking at channeling these things through small and medium-sized businesses that are most impacted by this program to be able to disseminate and cascade this artificial intelligence concept? So the budget in itself, and I try to check to see if there are really discussions around questions. I've seen a lot of analysis done. Okay, how impactful? There should be more questions. There should be already people analyzing, because for me, it's more about how, and again, I say it again, how these numbers were arrived at. How did you come to allotting $2.4 billion for artificial intelligence? How do we intend to implement this? And how do we have so much more for AI than we have for the Black community? So I will leave it here. If there are opportunities, again, to speak on this, then we can expand the subject further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael, and I appreciate your very thoughtful analysis. I didn't realize until today how much of an advocate you are for the Black community. And I'd like to touch on a few things before I move on to Lisa Kemba. And I appreciate that you've asked the questions, how did they arrive at the figures? 2.4 billion, as somebody said on the call, is actually a lot of money to invest in AI. But my understanding is that a lot of the money is going to research and innovation. Here's what I like to say, because I'm wearing my Black hat on, and I want to tell you my experience. Having ventured into community development just over a year ago, I've become a member of the Chamber of Commerce of the city or town where I live. I've tried to engage people outside of the Black community. And I want us to also be fair on all sides. And what do I mean? If the government appears not to be doing enough, it's probably because we're not also raising our hands enough. We're not speaking, we're not representing ourselves where we should be in the room, as I say, where it matters. And I give you an example. The number of, I mean, when we reached out to Philomena Tassi in February or March, she welcomed us with both hands. She didn't know us from Adam, but she then shared with us all the initiatives that the government has for minority groups. In fact, she went as far as giving us connecting us with one of the people in her department to coach us on how to respond and to address, take advantage of what was available. She even advised us also to ensure you get youth involved in what you do. So what am I trying to say? Things are the way they are. They're not, it's not fair, that's right. But the truth is that I don't think we can necessarily lay all the blame on the government. And I'll also tell you something. I've done some research. In 2021, the federal government, and Nene probably also knows this, the federal government of Canada made a very wonderful investment in what was called the Black Entrepreneurship Program. $160 million was set up, used to set up a company called Face Coalition. And that was to disburse money to organizations, you know, within the Black community. And that was great. We don't know how much of that money has been sourced through loans. But where I'm going into is that there was a second element of engaging what they call business ecosystem partners. There were 43 of them that were given maybe about 100 million or something. Our friend Casa Foundation was there. BIPOC or something was there. They were not, even the next company was there. Well, let me state it clearly. The company where the next on the board.
Which company?
Canadian
Black
Chamber
Chamber
of Commerce also had some. Yes. So they had this funding injection.
Mhm.
But where I'm going to is the third leg. The third leg was that the federal government of Canada recognized its limitation in knowing even what the gamut of the Black community business was. So they set up some research and funding agents in partnership with some organizations. I don't remember the names now. That was in my mind, that was a statement of intent that we want to know more. We want to be better informed, better aware. And so I think what is important, because again, I don't know people who just joined, Michael Okole, apart from having his own company, where he's doing fantastically well as a technology operator, also works with the city of Brampton. I don't remember what the title is. So you have a unique opportunity of providing the representation we're talking about. Let's even start from your office. How many of you are Black there? How many of you are able to take on such roles and actually demonstrate that, you know, we have opportunities to do a lot more than what is already available? I think that's, in my mind, I think it's going to be a journey, and I don't think we should deceive ourselves about that. But in my mind, I think we're actually moving in the right direction. All right. Okay. Lisa, can you please speak to the economic side of things, given what you've read in the budget?
Well, I guess first of all, I'll say I think the issues are complicated. So as much as I think the effort is being made here, I'm with Nene. The jury is out. I liked that comment. I guess when it comes to economic growth and small business, small business is my bailiwick. I've built multiple companies myself. I advise small businesses and I invest in small businesses. And you know, when it comes to economic growth and fiscal policy, it's not an abstract concept, right? Like, you know, our policymakers sit in offices and boardrooms and decide on policy that affects us in small business. And, you know, what they do and say either ensures or challenges our ability to put food on our tables, to, you know, pay our employees, to invest in the future of our businesses, to mitigate our risk as we grow. And so, you know, I'm a little bit concerned about some of the things that have been done in this budget, while at the same time, I feel like there is an effort to try to get things right. So it's complicated. I'm not sure this budget is quite that good for small business, although there's certainly some good things. I do think the investment in AI will certainly be valuable for small businesses, and I think there will be opportunities for small businesses to benefit from the investment in AI. So that's a great thing. I'm concerned about, while they're changing the capital gains tax, and I have all sorts of feelings and thoughts about that. At the same time, I'm concerned about that revenue windfall not actually being used to reduce our deficit, and instead to fund just new spending. So that concerns me, although I do think there is effort being made to try to improve things. I'm concerned about what all of that means. The generational fairness concept, I understand what the goal is, but it's the capital gains tax, for instance, is billed as being about pursuing tax fairness, and it's meant to tax the rich. The problem is that it isn't hitting the rich. It's hitting small businesses and middle class Canadians as much as the rich. And in fact, the rich have lots of loopholes and ways of getting money out of the country. So I'm not really sure that they're targeting the right people. It certainly says to me that if you are trying at all to improve the well-being of your family, that you're going to be impacted when you pass that wealth on to your children. So it really does make it critical to do estate planning. That's something that's going to have to be done for all Canadians, not just, small business owners and people like that. I guess the small business investments itself, there's certainly some things in here that I'm like, okay, some of the quotas in effect for government spending being directed to small business. I think that's a great thing. There's investment in innovation that's promised. There's $200 million over 2 years that is meant to increase access to venture capital for equity deserving entrepreneurs, which I think is great. I do have concern about where and who decides where that money gets put, because venture capital is a high risk investment, and so if the average venture capitalist puts maybe 100,000 to, call it 10 million, depending on the venture, that money is being put at risk. So it depends on how it's being done and who's deciding where that goes. And the truth is that most venture capitalists would say that only 10% of the ventures they invest in actually produce for them. I'm concerned on the private side of things for private investment that the capital gains tax will impact the ability for private investors to put their money into some of the small businesses and ventures that are just trying to get going. And quite frankly, most investment in small business comes privately, not through government funding, not through banks. It's mostly families helping one another. It's private investors who see opportunity and invest. So I'm thinking we're putting some of that at risk, which actually has a negative impact on innovation, even while the government's trying to improve innovation and productivity and support the growth of small businesses. So it's complicated. The promise of the carbon rebate for small businesses, that will be good if it comes through. Would like to see that happen a little faster. And then there's a promise to reduce red tape, which is always a good thing in business. It's always kind of a question, like how much should be higher taxes for certain populations, and then with small businesses, more tax incentives mean more paperwork and administration, which adds to overhead cost. So maybe I'll pause there. There's certainly some good news and there's some deep concerns I have at the same time.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for probing. What you did was just to probe the different different angles like a doctor. And I know that there are still many questions, but let me share with you some of the things I read from the federal government standpoint on how the state of Canada's economy is. And it's actually stated that Canada's economy is outperforming expectations, and that according to IMF and OECD, Canada is expected to have the strongest economic growth among the G7 by 2025. And one piece of good news I saw then is that headline inflation has fallen significantly from a peak of 8.1% in June 2022 to 2.8% in February 2024. And there are other things that are mentioned there. So I mean, there's some analysis on improving tax fairness for every generation here, but it looks like you could, if you were the government, you could feel that you're making the right decisions if you look at the overall macroeconomic effects of whether or not it trickles down is another thing. In the course of your talking, however, Mike, did you want to say something? Oh, okay. In the course of your talking, Michael had...
I was just going to point out, though, that while the government is saying all that, there's also third-party resources like the Telfer School of Business that puts out a report each year called the Scorecard on Canada. And it has recently said that all of those numbers are a little off. So, you know, we are heading into an election. So, of course, they're looking to try and improve the perspective that people have on what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we have to be aware of why things are being done, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we shouldn't be naive and just okay.
As much as I'd love to believe them, yeah.
Yeah, Michael had to step out on the call after making his presentation because he had a other commitment. But we are well compensated because we have Tola Kende, who is automatically been promoted to being on the panel, whether he knew it or not. Now you know. So now is the Q&A session, and I would like to ask, does anybody who's watching this have a question for the panelists? Because they've given their initial thoughts. And this is your opportunity to ask any direct questions, because we don't just want to talk away. I mean, there's still a lot to talk about, but we just want to give room for you. So is there anybody? I see a couple of other people have joined, and I'm just wondering, does anybody have a question in any of the topics? So we'll take it further from there. Okay, as we wait for that, Tola, is there anything you wanted to add to what Michael shared earlier, or are you good?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what Michael said. Well, on the AI side, technology, looking at that got me elated because AI is about the biggest spender because of the ever-evolving cycle of this technology. To the best of my knowledge, I'm still reviewing the intent of that allocation of that big chunk to AI, but I think infrastructure is going to be a major component of that budget. Okay, because what powers AI? AI is the infrastructure is quite significant in terms of what powers the AI. So I think the government of Canada is trying to also play big by, you know, ensuring that they secure the infrastructure that other ecosystem will layer on to build out AI, because that would be a barrier, especially if the required amount is not injected into the infrastructure. Then I think I'm also excited about the training because I think that's another area of when and how people need to get trained. And that's one of the things I'm very passionate about, how to leverage this technology. Every technology has a good side and the bad side, but the upside is amazing. So for people to get skilled up, either individuals, businesses, I think it's also a good thing that I'm excited about. from this budget. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your channel input. While you were talking, I got a note from one of the panelists asking to have a look at the scorecard on Canada commissioned by the Coalition for a Better Future. And I was just about to look at that when, and it's done by Telfast School of Business. I was just about to look at that when you finished. You finished too quickly, but that's all good. So I didn't really get to look at what the, Lisa, would you have a view? Are you able to summarize some of the points
Sure,
there?
yeah. I mean, basically the scorecard looks at, I believe it's 21 different factors on how Canada is doing, how the investments that our government is making are impacting us in society, both how we, I guess from the perspective of how we live locally, how we interact and win globally, and then the sustainability of our environments, and all of the different pieces that go into those three areas. And so the latest report came out about a month ago, I believe, maybe 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't great news. So, you know, and it's a third-party group. The Coalition for a Better Future is a member-based organization of all of the, not all, but a lot of the not-for-profit associations, the community development organizations. In fact, A&E Global should be a member actually, because it's an opportunity to have a voice in Ottawa. And it's that organization exists for one purpose only, and that is to hold the government to account for how we're doing. So it's worth kind of following what they're doing.
What's the name of the organization? Sorry, I didn't hear that. What's the name?
It's called the Coalition for a Better Future.
For a Better Future.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I will follow up. I know it's probably one of the things we discussed before, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah.
I encouraged you to get involved. Yes.
I actually did start, but I would share my feedback. That's the one being led by Lisa Wright, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Lisa Wright
so I did
and
follow
Dan McClellan. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I followed up and I'll share my feedback with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I did follow up. I don't take those
leads
lightly.
They are not, they do not run it. They are chairs of the advisory committee and spokespeople for the organization. It is run by the executive director. The current executive director is Marcy Sertz.
Yeah, thank you. And then I'm looking at you now. Are you able to give us some advice with regards to the real estate? So for instance, first time people looking to buy homes for the first time, we have a lot of immigrants coming in. Are there particular cities or towns that you would recommend, or is everything up in the air? Is the jury out on that as well? I'm just thinking maybe we can leverage your own personal experience in that industry to advise people where they should focus.
So there are different categories of new immigrants. That's a great question. There are different categories of new immigrants. And whether you're leasing as a new immigrant or you're buying, I always say that they should start small. But culturally, some are coming from a lot and they don't see why they should downsize when they get here. But reality hits quickly. But I always say, look in areas where if you have a family, look in an area where one, pricing, affordability, good schools for your kids, and it's not your forever home. If you have that hat on that this is not my forever home, this is my starting point, then you're willing to humble yourself and say, okay, I can stay in a 2-bedroom. I can stay in a 3-bedroom far away. I don't have to be in Oakville. I don't have to be in Vaughan or those kind of places. So the first thing is, before you buy, I advise them on credit, keeping your credits, because that's very important, and saving. So if you're renting, you don't need to pay $4,000 a month for rent. I'm just using that as an example. You can go cheaper so that you can save, and then you can get out of renting faster. So the advice is go, I don't want to use the word humble because it seems like people are proud, but that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is just know that where you are is a stepping stone to where you want to be. So I always say to them, you need to start small. And I actually learned that from my husband, because when I came to Canada too, it was the same thing. I'm like, okay, he's like, no, we need to start small. So you need to start small. Your credit is important. Save. You don't need to buy pizza every weekend or buy Starbucks coffee. You really don't. And then guard your credit. The areas would be places like London, Ontario. A lot of people are working virtually now, so you can stay in London, Ontario. They have great schools there. Stony Creek is also a great one. Some people, I tell them, go to Ottawa if you don't have to be in the GTA. You can buy a lovely, beautiful home for $500,000.
Great jobs there.
Yeah, great jobs, exactly. You don't need to be in the GTA. So those places are places I would recommend if you want to start small. But for those who want to start big, if you want to start big, well, be a baller, Agba baller.
No, I think we should take your advice. I'll just say that if you see me leave the neighborhood, know that I've taken your advice. I'm very close to Oakville. I'm actually I mean the mayor of Oakville, I don't know if you watched the interview I had, he granted us on Saturday. It was fantastic. I was comparing with Manhattan, saying that in 200 years, Oakville has been around for 200 years, and that, you know, potentially there's a lot of the ceiling is very high, and it sounded fantastic. And I was really considering, how do I position myself for the growth, expected growth in Oakville. But I also realized what you're saying. It's important to also stoop to conquer, as it were. Start, you know, be modest, and then think of the longer term perspective. But I think they are great things. As we round up, I see that somebody's raising his hand. Tola, quick one.
Yes, I just want to echo what Nene said. What she said is a perfect story of myself.
As you're echoing that as somebody living in Vaughan. Let's put that in as well. Somebody living in Vaughan.
I didn't start. Oh, come on, Emmanuel. I didn't start off in Vaughan, okay? But I started small, right? And now I live in Vaughan. Now you put me on the spot, Emmanuel. But now I live in Vaughan. So I didn't start small. Sorry, I didn't start big. I started small, and now I live in Vaughan. So I just want to echo what she said. Okay.
I think he may be frozen.
From you or from me?
From you. Okay, now I can see you.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was from me or from him. But I think we got your
Maybe
point. We got your point. No, wasn't I? So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up here. But even before Michael had advocated that we should keep this conversation going on, I already have one of 3 people scheduled for next week. He's a wonderful, fantastic guy called Deep Das. So Deep Das is going to be here next week. Lindsay will probably know him. Deep Das used to work in the bank, one of the big Barclays or something. In Dubai. He's recently come to Canada and is doing fantastic work. He also works in the real estate industry, but not different from what you do, Nene. And so we're having him. I've actually gone as far as asking for, you know, public servants to speak, but I think there's a bit of hesitation about speaking about these topics in public. So, but be that as may, I'm working very hard to get people that will contribute, because the discussion is important to be had, and we need to position ourselves for success. Well, I really want to thank you for making the time, for the passion shown by you in sharing your insights from the budget, and at least giving us pointers as to where and how we can be successful in this venture.
Thank you.
All right, so let me stop the recording. Please bear with me. Stay on board. Everyone, stay on board. Let me look for a way to end the recording.
Do you need glasses, Emmanuel?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I just need to find where I can say it looked different. So everybody, Thanks for joining us, and it's bye for now. Thank you.